pleasing customers, it's the best feeling. Like we can't please everyone, unfortunately, but we are very happy with what we're doing, and we just keep going, and keep striding. Like I said, the day that I'm not enjoying this anymore, you and I will be in Sardinia having a beer.
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. There are many restaurants renowned for a signature dish. Some chefs see it as a blessing for repeat business, others see it as a curse of repetition. But few share the same word-of-mouth folklore as Giovanni Pilu's suckling pig dish at his award-winning restaurant, Pilu. Giovanni, how are you?
Good, how are you, Anthony? Great to be here, as always.
It's great to get you on the show. Always love the yarns that you have to share. The suckling pig dish, have you ever tried to take it off the menu?
I'll have to shut the restaurant down. It's impossible, man. It really is. I mean, it's. I think you mentioned it's crazy. Like I really don't like to call it a signature dish because, it's the most popular dish. That's what I say always. It's not fair for all the other poor dishes to go, oh, what about me? But yeah, I mean, we are, so renowned for, our suckling pig and some of the other staples from Sardinia, and I think that's the way. I think that's the way restaurants should be. That you go because of a specialty that they do, and you keep going back to it because you want to eat that dish or what they specialize in, and that's why it's so great to have so many different restaurants, because then wherever you go, it's different, and you go back for it. Like, if I go to Ormeggio, I know I'm going to eat fish. That's it. And if I go to, Lennox, I know that I'm going to have the best meat in, charred meat in Australia, kind of thing, So, yeah.
It is a challenge of the restaurants, isn't it? Like, it's hard going to Pilu and you want to have the suckling pig, but there's so much joy also on the menu in other dishes. But take us through that suckling pig dish. Like, how do you cook it?
Oh man, I have to kill everyone then.
Well, don't give away all the secrets.
No, look, I mean, roasting pork, you know how it is. You gotta. The two main things are, you want the meat to be juicy and the skin to be crackling, right? That is what you want to achieve in any pork roast you do with the skin on. And that's what we strive for, And in all these years, we worked constantly on perfecting it and getting it better. And then, obviously the product that you get sometimes changes, especially like, small pigs are affected by so many different, like the farming, it's difficult. So, they get droughts, they get heat, they get too much rain. So that changes, and that means that we need to adjust to it, which is like, it's an ongoing process that we need to just keep an eye on, But literally, like, we slow roast at first. So, for about, depending on size, give or take about 3 to 3.5 hours on a low temperature. And we put a little bit of moisture in the oven, because now, combi ovens have got, a mode that you can have dry roast plus a little bit of humidity. So we just, let's say that, we cook it with 90% dry roast and 10% humidity. So it keeps the meat, like I say, nice and moist. Then when we do that, we make sure that we cut, because the pigs are split in half. So we cover the skin in salt with a little bit of oil, so it sticks to it at the point that you can't see the skin anymore. That's how it is. So you have to just fully cover it, just in cooking, fine salt, right? And then once you do that, we take it out, and we then let it rest for like 10 minutes so we can handle it, and then shake all the salt off and wipe it with a cloth, damp cloth, that it's fully, the salt has to be fully wiped off. And then at that point, that is the first part of the cooking done. Then from then on, you need to just put it back in to make sure that the skin now crisps up, right? So then the oven now, you want it with no humidity, very dry and very hot, because that is what makes the skin crackle or crisp up. in a way, we don't score it, obviously, because the skin is so thin. It's not like a big, belly that you got a thick skin, you got to score it, so all the moisture comes out. And then we section it off. And over the years, we've changed even that. We used to cut it bone in and serve it. We did it, that we did bigger pieces divided by two. Then we made it smaller per person, and now we fully debone the pig so that you get the nice piece with no bones. Because like in a fine dining environment, I mean, if you go to an agriturismo in Sardinia, they chop it up, put it on a cork tray, and comes out with myrtle leaves on top, and then you just dig in, which is perfect. But when you are sitting in a fine dining restaurant, I think it's nice that you do nearly all the work for the customer, and then it's easy, right, ready to eat, with whatever garnish we serve it with. We change the garnish, as the season change. At the moment, we got pinzimonio, which is very fresh for summer and all that. But we're already thinking about changing it now for autumn. Maybe use I don't know, something else, plums or apples. I don't know.
Let's talk about the food of Sardinia. It's an island, but it's not as reliant on seafood as people might think.
Not until about, I mean, and when you say 150 years ago, it sounds like, it's not a long time ago, you know what I mean? Because Sardinia is a very old island. So until then, the diet of Sardinians was like 90% meat and cheese and pasta. Because being an island, it's dangerous to live on the coast because you get invaded, right, and colonized by so many, different cultures like Sardinia did, and a lot of other islands are. So the best place to hide was, up in the hills and in the mountains. And obviously, you are far away from the coast, so there is no fish. You can't have access to fish, and only like I said, in the last 100 and say 50 years, that Sardinia has become, quite a seafood, destination. But still, though, in the hills and the well, I say the real Sardinians, like, if you are a tourist, you are on the coast, in the resorts, and you eat lots of fish and seafood, which is great. But if you are a Sardinian that lives up on the hills, like my parents, and not far away from the coast, only like maybe 20 k's up, I started eating fish when I was 18 or something like that. Yeah, I didn't know how to even eat a fish with the bones, and we ate maybe mussels occasionally. We ate calamari, some octopus. We used to go and catch some eels in the creeks, and we used to do them on the charcoal. But that's about it. Like there wasn't, you don't go and go. I can never remember my parents going, oh, let's go and have some seafood. It was always mostly meat, pork, lamb, goat. My father, and obviously wild boar, because wild boar is such a big thing, like the Sardinians love hunting, especially where we come from. It's one of the highlights of the year for, a lot of people just to go hunting for wild boars. I had my gun license before I had my driver's license to go hunting. My father was so proud, like I was 18 and one day, gun license, we're going hunting, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean that's it.
Well, tell us a little bit about the pigs and wild boars and the sort of dishes that you experienced as a kid with that.
Yeah, look, I mean the one that I remember the most, and I loved it so much, and now is, obviously we haven't done it here since we came to Australia, because it's almost like illegal, I guess, to kill your own pork in the backyard. But that was like so cool. Twice a year with obviously my grandfather when he was alive, and then all my uncles and aunties. We did the group breed the pork, the big pig, and then it becomes like a celebration of 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you slaughter the pig. And these things are like, man, 160 kilos, maybe 200 kilos. So they're big. remember catching this thing, and then you got to tie the mouth with wire, because otherwise it can bite you and freaking take your hand off. So you have to grab it. Three or four, my uncles and my grandfather is a strong guy. My father, they grab this pig and somehow close his mouth, and then tie it with a steel wire, so it wouldn't bite you, because you have to then put it upside down, hang it, then you stab it. So the first thing that you collect is the blood, and then from there, my aunties made blood pudding, and there was the lunch on the Saturday or something like that, because then the intestines and the interiors were taken out, and then the intestines were just like washed in the running water in the creek that we had next to our house. And then you start, then Saturday, it's a big day, because then you start sectioning off all the pig for maybe two prosciuttos. Then you did the pancetta, the capocollo, and all that, and then all the other meat. Obviously there was the sausage making, right? And then was Sunday, so 3 days of this, and it was brilliant. And then every day you ate something from the pork. So you did the blood pudding, then maybe a rice with bits of meat, which is called pulpeda, which is the meat with the fat. But it's not risotto though. It's a drier rice with tomato and pork meat. So it's not like a risotto that Alessandro would make, with butter and all that kind of stuff. And then like things that you wouldn't use to either preserve or make sausages. That was like what you ate, 3 days basically. I mean, that I loved so much. It was a celebration. It was just brilliant. Loved it. Yeah.
How important was that sort of 3-day breaking down the pig process for family and connection and community?
Oh, massive, mate. That was it. That was the sausages for 3 or 4 months for the family. And whatever you got out of it, the prosciuttos, I mean, a capocollo. My uncle made this dish called, which is a terrine really, but we called it testa in cassetta, which is the head in a box basically. So all the head was, because you boiled it, and then you took all the bits out, and then you pressed it into a little box, and there was, then you eat there like a terrine really, So there, as pig, you eat everything, right? And that was it. That was a must, that you had to use absolutely every single thing. As kids, what we had, the first thing that we had was, you couldn't wait for, because it was so big, the pig, you couldn't, for the fare to get rid of the fare, you can either use boiling water, or you burn it with a big, torch, like massive torch, right? You burn all the fare, and they used to burn the tip of the ears, and as the kids, they used to cut the tip of the ear and give it to you, and you used to chew on it. That was the first thing we ate. It's like insane. It was too good, man. The pig hasn't washed his ears all his life, and here we are eating pig's ears. And it was so cool. Like, things that obviously you never forget as a kid, but we loved it so much. Like, and it was like a race to see who's going to get the first little tip of the ear, that was lightly roasted with a torch, and then you just chewed on it, It was just insane.
What's a sense of obligation that you have to traditional recipes? Recipes passed down in family from the town that you grew up in, or Sardinia. Do you have an obligation to sort of honor recipes, or what does it feel like for you?
Yeah, look, I think, and especially, I always say, I always felt that being away from Sardinia, I had to kind of, really try to keep the tradition going of my homeland if I was away from it, You almost feel a little bit more, you feel it more inside, that you want to really do the right thing by it, So any recipe that is a traditional recipe, because, cuisine evolves, right? So you can change things, and you can actually make them better, because not all the traditional recipes were great made at home. Some of them were freaking, unedible, but I think just like, really, you made this, like, you can cook meat in a different way, and you can make it tender, or that kind of thing, But yeah, look, anything we did at the restaurant, especially in over the years, from Cala Luna days, or Pilu Freshwater now coming up to 20 years, always try to, and I was lucky enough to have guys like Federico, which is our was our head chef, and now he's more executive. So he's a little bit like working with me and Marilyn, and we always try to keep that kind of tradition for certain recipes. Like if we did Catalana, if we did the seadas, if we did all this like zuppa gallurese, all the staples from Sardinia and where we came from or not in the island, just to make sure that we don't change them too much. I mean, who are we really, to go, I'm just going to change this because of the sake of it. No. Okay, you can improve it, make it better, but you always have to keep in mind that these dishes have been made for such a long time, and it's not fair that, I'm going to go and, like change it so much that, it's not the dish anymore. You know what I mean? And I know that this comes up so much in conversation. It's almost like a cliche. But, like the carbonara, let's say, right? Why would you change it? Why would you want to put, I don't know, onions in it, or you want to put, something else to make your own spin? Mate, don't change it. Don't touch the dish, because that is what they've been doing in Rome for so many years, and just leave it. Make it better. Maybe use better guanciale, or use better eggs, or make great pasta or pecorino that it's amazing. But don't change it. Like it's not up to us to do that.
When did you first sort of see chefing as a potential career?
I think when, well, funny enough, I always say, I always make a joke and go, all chefs want to become waiters one day so we can relax. They get the shits. But I was working in a bar with my uncle and my auntie. I was brought up by them during the school holidays because they got no kids. And my brother and I, we used to go all through summer and work with them. They had the bar/restaurant in the port in Olbia where the ferries come in. Busy place, as like so busy. And the school holidays in Italy go for like 3 months. It's a long break, and we used to just live with them and go and work every day, 7 days a week. We used to work, and maybe have a little break in the afternoon to go to the beach or something. And for all those years, since I was 14, I loved it so much. And I went to school. I was going to school, and I was studying to be a draftsman, which I couldn't do it anymore. Like I got to like second last year, and I said to my parents, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to become a draftsman. I want to work in hospitality." And then I worked in a couple of hotels in Sardinia, some restaurants when I met Marilyn, and then when I came here, then I just kept being a chef. But I started back when I was about 18 to start getting into kitchens. But before then, I was working in the bar, and it was great because it was a good base for me in terms of understanding hospitality and the key of hospitality, and all those key elements that you need to understand no matter what you work in. It could be in a cafe, in a restaurant, in a bar. I mean, some of the principles are the same. So I learned from my uncle, because it was very tough working with him, that I learned so much, like things that you go, when you work with someone and other people that I work with, you always go, there's two ways that you can go, right? You go, okay, well, that I didn't like, maybe I'm not going to use that one day if I am in charge and I got staff working for me and I'm like a head chef. But then you go, okay, well, this is great, so I'm going to make sure that I'll do this. So you get the good and the bad, and then you then develop your own career and what you want to do with. It doesn't matter, like I said, what it is. It could be something very small or something very large. The principles are so important. That's what I learned with my uncle, and that was great for me back then.
You mentioned you met Marilyn and then moved to Australia. Was Australia quite different to what you expected? Was it? Tell us about when you first got here.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, because when you come from a 250 people village in the middle of Sardinia to Sydney, which that was my first very long trip on the plane. I was 22. I wasn't even like, I had no idea what to expect, and I think I always said, the first impact is the one that counts the most. And when I came here, when I went to stay with Marilyn's parents, I was like, already I felt like I was walking into my second family. And I think that's what I loved so much. They welcome him. And I was just a friend then, like we met, I came, I was a friend. And then, and that really, I started on the right foot with Australia. And I loved that so much. Like, we did for the first 3 years, we did a little bit of backs and forwards. I go back to Italy. Maybe we stay there. We come here. Like you didn't know. Like Italy was amazing back then, and people were making good money. And now it's tougher, but back then was brilliant. But I always used to get drawn back to Australia. Every time I went back to Sardinia, I missed Australia. I really wanted to come back. So it kept dragging me back, and it was great. And I was learning English. It was exciting for me. It was new things that I was learning, like getting out of like I said, a small place and an island where I hadn't traveled at all. It was just like great, and Australia, it's as it's an incredible country.
I feel very old hearing that Pilu is nearly 20 years old. I can remember when it first opened. But you and Marilyn have been like this amazing dynamic duo, a real power couple of the food industry in Australia with incredible influence. How do you work together, and what's the dynamic like?
Look, I think being in business and raising a family together, it's not an easy task. And a lot of people probably listening to this, they'll relate to it, because you bring always work home and you never break off. You live, work, and family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can't get away from it. So there is like really challenging moments sometimes, but there is some incredible moments. And the trust that you have in one another, because obviously you are family. And then that translated to the way that we operate our restaurants. The family run business, and we are very much hands on. And working together with Marilyn, it was just like such a good thing, because we back one another up, and then we created this incredible team that we have up here at Freshwater, and they embraced what we want to achieve and what we wanted. And so yeah, look, not easy but great, because Marilyn only came working with me after she left NZ, because she was working for NZ Australia, yeah. And then after we had a second child, Sophia, she was pregnant with Sophia, and said, went bust. And then she decided to work, with me at the restaurant, because then we took over Kalaluna, just the two of us, from our previous business partner, Tony. And that was great, because, I mean, how good, I'm at the back in the kitchen and Marilyn's at the front. And then now, Marilyn basically drives what we do from the office. I mean, there is 5 of them up there now in the office. They are absolutely, that is the force of what we do. And a lot of people probably don't see that. We always talk about what's behind the scenes. How do you run a restaurant? Because, Anthony, the easiest thing to do in a restaurant is cook a great meal, right? You are creative, you are a great chef, you have amazing produce, you have a great team at the back, and you make good dish and you put it on the plate. Done. Beautiful. You can do that any day of the week. But then running the place, that is what, it's the most difficult thing to do. And that's why I think there has been situations where maybe the chefs, that they are so great at what they do, but they couldn't have anyone to back them up to run the place. They struggled over the years. And that has been my blessing, where, yeah, I can cook, I'm a chef, I got great chefs working with me, and, I can share my passion and we do all that. But then what about running the place? All the important stuff that you got to do, what we call, back of house. That is what, Marilyn has done. And I always say this, and I mean it. I really mean it. Without Marilyn, I would not be here talking to you right now about my restaurant. I can put money on it. Mate, it's a given. That is what, still I think people underestimate that what you see at the front and in the dining room, it's a tiny small percentage of what is done at the back. And that's why people go, oh, but when I hear people going, oh, I may open up a restaurant or a cafe, I'm sick of working in an office, and I'm just like, no, man, no, don't do that, because it's not as glamorous or as easy as you may think when you see me going around the tables, saying hi to the customers, like that is part of what I do, but the bulk of the work is at the back, and that is what people don't see and underestimate sometimes, I think.
Tell us how Pilu came to fruition.
So basically, we were by luck. We were very lucky because we were at Calaluna back then and doing so well. I mean, Calaluna was always pumping, and this family came in one night for dinner. This Italian family, and they were the owners of Freshwater, the property, right? And they said, I remember this still. I remember where they're sitting. There was only one round table, table 11, and they sat and going, oh, you do a great job here. We love this little place, but this is not good enough for you. You need to come and have a look at something else. And it's like, I was nearly offended by them. It's like, I actually love this place. Closed twice a week, only 8 staff, making money. And then, we basically drove. We lived in Freshwater back then, and then we drove to Freshwater, and they said, do you want to take that over and become business partners? And I said, no, man, I love to take it over. I mean, long story, but business partners, I say I've got only one partner, that's Marilyn, and that's it. Otherwise, let's finish the coffee and see you later. And then, it took quite a long time to negotiate, but in the end, we took over a lease, the two of us, and it was brilliant. It was great. So that's, I mean, long story, but that's what, in a nutshell, that's what it was. Pure luck. These guys came in, the old previous owners, the lease ran out, and they couldn't agree to renew it, and then they were looking for tenants. So they heard about Calaluna and came and said, come and take it over.
Well, almost 2 decades is extraordinary for any restaurant of any level, but you've maintained like this incredible standard for almost 2 decades, with lots of hurdles along the way. What's been the real sort of challenges and successes in those 20 years for you?
Oh, Anthony, I mean, challenges. You cannot face challenges in whatever you do, right? In the work, like in life in general, anyway. But I think it's the way that you approach the challenges, and you got to be prepared, not to quit in a way, and keep driving. And hard times make you stronger and better. Because if it was easy, then everyone will be doing it easy, and it'd be a walk in the park. But we went through 2008 when recession came, and it was quiet, it was tough, it was really hard, at the point of like breaking point almost, like nearly closing the restaurant. Went through all that, and then obviously COVID. That was probably the biggest challenge that we'll ever face in our lifetime, I reckon, with a restaurant. But again, we learned, we got more resilient, we did things that we never thought we were going to do, and that was all given because we had such a good team. And like I said, Marilyn and I work as a team, and then all the guys that work with us, they're just like family to us, and we're still there all together. And it's about, and that's what, like, one of the things that we always said is, the day that we don't enjoy doing what we do anymore, that's the day that we give the keys back, right? So until then, it's brilliant, like, and don't get me wrong, like there is challenges all the time, but so many times, that I go to work and I go, man, how lucky am I? Look where I work, Freshwater Beach. I never take one day for granted. I have an amazing team, people that come here and love what we do, and pleasing your customers, and and that challenges that drive you. Challenges drive you, right? So that's what it's it's so great. Like it's a great industry. Like I really love it.
You mentioned the challenges of COVID. Sort of coming out of that, did you change things operationally or from a food sense for the better moving forward out of that?
We did make a few changes coming out of COVID. Like we had to kind of adjust a bit. Coming out of it to start with. And now, one of the things that we did that we never used to do at Pilu was that, like the food, some of the food that we're doing, it's a little bit more to share kind of thing. And we never used to do that, which people are really, really embraced, so well. Because, sharing food at the table, it's always so great. It's like a home, right? And that was really good. We learned, that and we implemented that. Um, yeah, I mean, we haven't changed drastically much what we do because Pillar Freshwater is Pillar Freshwater, right? That's why you come to our restaurant. But we did learn, some things that made us think um, and then become even better. Like I said, because hard times are good for that kind of thing.
At the top of the show, we talked about your suckling pig dish, and you mentioned sort of the how different the meat can be sometimes, and working with that. What do you have any connections with farmers?
Yeah, funny you brought this up now. Man, are we going through at the as you may know, unfortunately, Melanda Park had to close, and that was a big blow for us. When Matt told me before Christmas, I said to him, "You joking? Closing your farm?" I said, "Matt, you're killing me." And he goes, "Yeah." And look, I totally get it. For over 10 years, Matt and Sue, they've done an incredible job. But two big floods, one bushfire, and these guys are going, you know what, we can't do this anymore. I mean, farming, it's, crazy. Like, it's incredible. So now we are actually in the process of trying to find new suppliers. We're working with, a couple of guys. I mean, Norm, that I've known for a long time, from Total Meats. He's called Meat Station, and he's got some pigs coming now from Forbes. But we're trying also pigs from, you may know, David Refalo? Yeah. So I've been speaking to David, and then because you know what it is also, it's logistics, right? So getting into us once a week at the beginning of the week, and then you got to get the weight right, and we use, like, when it's quiet, we use 15 pigs. When it's busy, up to 30. So it's a big, yeah, some of these small farms can't keep up with us because, they can't produce all those pigs. So we're trying now to see if there is maybe a couple of different ones that we can get the pigs from, but then you start having the little problem that the pigs are different. Remember when I said the cooking changes depending on where the pigs come from. There is another now farm that Mitch from Great Meats. I've been speaking to him and said, "Oh, I got these guys from Queensland. They can get you the pigs down on Tuesday, and then we have to try them as well." I said, "Look, let's get one in. We cook it because until you cook it, you don't know how it's going to come up. They all look beautiful, white and all that, but then when you start cooking them." So now we are in the process of trying to get some pigs organized, and I really want to work with like small farms. Obviously, if we can get free range pigs, that's so great, but it's not easy. It's not easy because these guys are small and they haven't got the facility. See, with Matt and Sue, it was amazing because they created this system that they had they picked up the pigs on Monday, selected them, took them to a small abattoir in the Hawkesbury, and then brought them to us on Wednesday morning. So, they were fresh. They had their own trucks. They were driving the truck. So it was absolutely perfect. But some of these guys can't do that because they're far away, man. They're like central New South Wales. They're like 3, 4, 5 hour drive. They got to get the pigs, take them to Cara, then bring them here. It's not easy. So we're trying to see if we can get around using some of our suppliers and then connect them with the farmer and then get them to us. So we're in the, it's a work in progress at the moment.
Well, you and Marilyn continue to make an incredible impact on the culinary landscape in Australia. What do you love about what you do?
Man, pleasing customers, it's the best feeling, you know. And yeah, and I know, and I please, don't, like, we can't please everyone, unfortunately, but you know, we are very happy with what we're doing, and we just keep going, you know, and keep striding. Like I said, the day that I'm not enjoying this anymore, you and I will be in Sardinia having a beer on the beach. But yeah, absolutely love it every day. And training the young chefs, you know, I get so much out of it. I mean, the guys that came out of the Pilu kitchen, some of the guys are doing so well. Look at, you know, Jason Appelreis and Matteo Zamboni and all these guys. They've been through Mitch, you know, Daniel Mulligan, all these guys that we're still, you know, good friends with, and they've done so well. And every now and then I look back and go, you know, wow, that's great, you know.
Well, Giovanni, as always, it's an absolute pleasure catching up with you. We've loved having you on the Crackling to hear a few amazing yarns. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Definitely. Anytime, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.